Hello, my name is Pavel Alexeyev. I'm an artificial intelligence researcher, and today I will speak about artificial intelligence in agricultural industry. And more precisely, I will speak about theatrical conceptual framework. First of all, I think I should start with the characteristic of actual situation in which context we speak about artificial intelligence technologies in agricultural industry. The actual situation can be called, and it's already a known idea, the actual situation can be called the fourth industrial revolution or Industry 4.0. This situation of the fourth industrial revolution have several aspects connected with new state of artificial intelligence technologies, and more precisely we can say that artificial intelligence technologies are driver of the fourth industrial revolution. Modern artificial AI technologies reshape traditional industries and work itself, both physical and intellectual. Human monopoly for intellectual work has been interrupted for the first time in history. As a result, AI technologies change culture as well, not just the modes of production or industrial work. When we speak about agricultural industry, we should say about its main aspects in context of AI technologies. First of all, we should say that agricultural industry is a rather traditional industry. It's one of the oldest industries, and it's even pre-industrial industry. Agricultural industry have vast potential of AI implementation, agro-AI, in such fields like automation of production and intellectual decisions based on analytics which was made by artificial neural networks, and agricultural industry have vast big data sets for these artificial neural networks. And when we speak about agricultural industry, we should say also that the core of the forthcoming transformation in the fourth industrial revolution of agricultural production, not only the agro-AI technologies itself, but the practice of their implementation, which is also based on a conceptual framework. When I speak about artificial intelligence technologies, I propose such a definition. AI is not an anthropomorphous technical object, neither in physical, like human, like robotics, nor in intellectual sense, like artificial double of human mind and cognition. AI is some of contemporary technologies which can autonomously perform difficult analytical tasks on the level of efficiency equal or above human. When we speak about anthropomorphic artificial intelligence, we should say that the image of anthropomorphic AI have vast popularity in culture, and it can be explained the way that it is image which have potential to be used in some kind of aesthetical narratives, and this is some kind of more aesthetical, not technological definition of AI. So, when we speak about AI in agricultural industry, we should speak about two basic modes of agricultural production. First, can be determined such way. The more AI technology is used, the more autonomous production becomes, and the less AI technologies are used, the more human interaction production requires. This correlation of the level of technological advancement and type of human-machine interaction can be described as modes of theatrical spectator in different forms of theater, which can be called classical and interactive forms of theater. The following question expected: why we should speak about AI in agricultural industry in terms using concepts of theater? And the answer is the aesthetical experience which can be found in theater. The very structure of an aesthetical experience of spectator in theater allows to analyze it as a complex structure which can be compared to our complex structures. Theater is a synthetic art which combines different objects and processes, so it has in its theory potentially many conceptual resources for implementation in interdisciplinary field of research. The everyday idea of theater is rather simple. In everyday communication, theater are often associated with consecutive narrative, story in literary form of play, straightforward system of roles, actors play characters, and a classical stage. Actors play in front of audience in space, which by its architectural parameters clearly divides them into opposite groups. But on the current stage of evolution of theater, which includes both practice and theory, it's clear that the art of theater is a more complex situation, which involves heterogeneous actants and processes. And while theory of some arts can be built like theory of specific aesthetical artifact, like painting, book, or film, the theory of theater should be based on a notion of event. But when we speak about the use of aesthetical concepts in interdisciplinary field and such field like artificial intelligence research, we should say that we should avoid such thing as correlationism. The correlationism is the idea of theoretical irreducibility of correlation of being and consciousness, mind or subject. It's even not a complete conceptual framework, but rather point of view. This notion of correlationism was introduced by contemporary philosopher Quentin Meillassoux in his work After Finitude, an essay on the necessity of contingency. It's important to use concepts which are not based on anthropocentrism or any kind of spontaneous asymmetry between different objects, and such conceptual resources can be found in actor network theory of Bruno Latour and different variants of object-oriented ontologies like Graham Harman's variant, which both defy the correlationism. In the perspective of actor network theory, performance of agro-AI is not only the question of quantities of some technological objects based on AI, but also the question of conceptual framework which shapes industrial practices, its theory and practice as integrity. When we speak about theatrical concepts which will be used for work of AI in agricultural industry, we should speak about two forms of theater. One which called classical theater, and second which can be called interactive theater. In classical model of theater, stage and audience propose to be more or less autonomous to each other in terms of actions, which can change the structure of theatrical event. In this model, it's proposed the spectator, We should point that this mode of spectator shouldn't be called passive, because spectator interacts with stage, but on the level which is not often obvious, on the level of phenomenological experience. The spectator can see the whole performance without need to do some decisions affecting this performance on the structural level. Interactive form of theater is form which is based on interactions between audience and stage, which can even change the structure of the performance and the structure of stage narrative. The interactions are based on choices and actions that made by spectator during the performance. They make each performance non-linear and requiring different mode of spectators' attention to stage, from more meditative, reflective to more active. So, when we speak about these two forms of theater and agricultural production with technologies of artificial intelligence, we should say such things. Actors, stage actors, in this concept, can also be technological objects, technological actants. Then, high level of intellectual automation of agricultural production makes conditions for appearance of more intellectual work made by humans in this production, and it can be described in terms of classical theater. And the lower level of intellectual automation makes conditions for appearance of more linear work, which requires direct human actions during production process, and this can be called interactive theater. Different actor networks not just require different types of interaction of spectator and stage, but also bring different phenomenological and semiotic experience of this interaction. In classical theater, these experiences can be described like the experiences of perception and interpretation, while an interactive theater provides more the experience of action. Both of these experiences in agricultural industry connected to rational decision-making and professional knowledge which aimed for the result and growth of the industrial productivity. Such conceptual framework arises the question of method of implementation of artificial technologies in agricultural industry. The use of theatrical concepts as a theoretical framework will not be theoretically complete without the question of method. The method which can shape both theory and practice and make different concepts, both theatrical and non-theatrical, work with empirical material as an integral system, should be able to analyze heterogeneous actor networks. In other words, it should be flexible, able to include new theories and make analysis on the different structural levels. On contemporary level of scientific knowledge and technology, there is possibility of a new hermeneutics with augmented subject of interpretation. AI technologies can make more precise analysis of different objects and reduce unproductive subjectivity of researcher, making hermeneutics more formal. And this new augmented subject can be placed at the core of process of organization of agricultural production. This new hermeneutics should be based on two forms of synthesis of method. First, horizontal synthesis of method is analysis of different structural levels of objects, and second, vertical synthesis of method is an analysis of dynamics of actor networks surrounding that object. As a conclusion, I should say that agricultural AI is question both of technologies and conceptual framework of their implementation. Then, theatrical concepts, classical and interactive theater, can shape practices of production based on use of artificial intelligence technologies in agricultural sector. And then new hermeneutics based on vertical and horizontal synthesis of method required for integrity of theory and practice of agro-AI. Thank you for your attention.